I've been thinking about something lately. The way we talk about doing hard things, like it's this massive, heroic effort, this constant battle against yourself. Push through, force it, grind it out. But what if that's the problem? What if the reason hard things feel so hard isn't because they're actually that difficult, but because of how we approach them? I used to think willpower was like a muscle. You flex it harder, you get stronger. Turns out that's not quite right. Your brain has patterns, pathways it's carved over years of small choices. Every time you pick up your phone instead of reading, every time you scroll instead of writing, every time you choose easy over hard, you're not weak, you're not broken, you're just trained to avoid discomfort, trained to seek the quickest dopamine hit, trained to think hard things are supposed to feel impossible. But here's what I've noticed. The people who seem to do hard things easily, they're not superhuman. They're not grinding through pain every day. They've just rewired something fundamental. They've changed the story their brain tells about hard things. And once you see how that works, everything shifts. So let me tell you what I mean. You wake up, first thought, check your phone. You tell yourself you'll just look for a minute, see if anything important happened while you slept. 30 minutes later, you're still scrolling. You didn't decide to spend 30 minutes. It just happened. You sit down to work, open your computer, but first just a quick check of email, then Slack, then that article someone shared. An hour passes, you haven't started the thing you sat down to do, and you feel heavy, frustrated, like you've already lost the day. This isn't about willpower. This is about wiring. Your brain has learned something without you realizing it. It's learned that the moment you feel any discomfort, any boredom, any resistance, there's an escape route, always. You're reading a difficult book, your mind starts to wander automatically, your hand reaches for your phone. You don't think about it, you just reach. You're having a hard conversation, there's tension. Your brain says, check that notification. You're trying to focus on work. It's challenging. Your brain says, maybe just see what's happening on social media. Thousands of times, small moments, small choices. Each time your brain learns hard thing equals escape. Discomfort equals distraction. Resistance equals relief. But here's the thing you don't notice. The relief is temporary, 2 minutes, maybe 5. But the resistance, that stays. Actually, it gets stronger because now your brain knows the moment things get difficult, there's a way out. So why would it ever choose to stay? You sit down to write. The blank page feels overwhelming. Your brain already knows. The phone is right there. You start a workout. It gets uncomfortable. Your brain already knows you can stop anytime. This is why hard things feel impossible. Not because they're actually impossible, but because your brain has been trained to see them as optional. Every time you give in to the easier choice, you're voting. Voting for the kind of person who avoids hard things. Voting for the neural pathway that says, when it's difficult, we leave. And your brain listens. Your brain learns. It becomes automatic. The tragedy isn't that you're weak. The tragedy is that you've accidentally taught yourself to be weak. One small choice at a time, one moment of avoiding discomfort at a time. But here's what gives me hope. If you can train yourself out of hard things, you can train yourself back into them. The same brain that learned to escape can learn to stay. The same neural pathways that carve the easy route can carve a different one. It's not about forcing yourself. It's not about grinding through with pure willpower. It's about changing what your brain expects, changing what feels normal. So what does that actually look like? Why does this happen? Not because you're weak, not because your phone is designed to trap you, though it is. but because you've trained yourself thousands of times. Small moments, small choices. Think about it this way. Your brain is always learning, always adapting, always looking for patterns. And the pattern you've accidentally taught it is simple. Discomfort equals escape, resistance equals relief, hard equals leave. But here's what's actually happening in those moments. When you feel that urge to check your phone, when you feel that pull to do something easier, that's not weakness. That's your brain doing exactly what you taught it to do. For years, maybe decades, you've been consistent. Every time something felt hard, you found a way out. Every time you felt bored, you found stimulation. Every time you felt uncomfortable, you found comfort. Your brain learned this human doesn't like difficult things. So I'll help them avoid difficult things. I'll make hard things feel impossible. And that's the cruel irony. The more you avoid hard things, the harder they become. Not because they actually get more difficult, but because your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. I used to think I was just naturally bad at focus, naturally bad at discipline. Some people had it, I didn't. But that wasn't true. I had just trained myself to expect immediate gratification. I had trained my brain to panic the moment things got challenging. When I would sit down to work on something difficult, my brain would flood me with reasons to stop. This is boring. This is too hard. You're not good at this. Maybe later. And I thought those thoughts were true. I thought they were objective assessments of reality, but they weren't. They were just my brain's learned response to discomfort. My brain trying to protect me from something it had learned was dangerous. Difficulty, boredom, effort. The problem is those things aren't actually dangerous. They're just uncomfortable. And somewhere along the way, you learned that uncomfortable and dangerous were the same thing. Your brain learned to treat every moment of resistance like an emergency. So when you sit down to do something hard, your nervous system activates fight or flight. Your brain starts generating every reason to leave, every excuse, every distraction. Not because the thing is actually threatening, but because your brain has been trained to see hard things as threats. And that's why willpower doesn't work. You're not fighting the hard thing. You're fighting your own alarm system. No, it's like trying to have a calm conversation while a fire alarm is going off. Even if you know there's no fire, your brain is screaming, "Get out." So what do you do about it? Here's the thing. You can't control the notification. You can't control the algorithm. You can't control what appears on your screen, but you can control if you open the app. You can control if you stay. You can control if you come back. That's your space. That's your control. I know that sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but most people spend their entire lives trying to control things they can't control, trying to make hard things easy, trying to make uncomfortable things comfortable, trying to change the world so they never have to change themselves. It doesn't work. The world will always give you hard things. Your brain will always prefer easy things. That tension, that's not a problem to solve. That's just life. But here's what you can do. You can change your relationship to that tension. Right now, when you feel resistance, your brain says, this is wrong. This shouldn't be this hard. I should feel motivated. I should want to do this. And when you don't feel motivated, you wait. You wait for inspiration. You wait for the perfect moment. You wait for it to feel easier. But what if that's backwards? What if the feeling of resistance isn't a signal to stop? What if it's just information, like feeling cold when you step outside? You don't think this is wrong, it shouldn't be cold. You just think, okay, it's cold. And you decide what to do about it. Resistance is the same. It's not good or bad. It's just there. Your brain saying, this feels hard, not this is impossible. Not you should stop, just this feels hard. And then you get to choose. Most people never realize they have this choice. They think feelings are commands. Brain says, this is boring. And they think, I guess I have to stop. Brain says, this is uncomfortable. And they think, I guess I have to leave. But feelings aren't commands. They're just weather. You can notice the weather without letting it decide your day. You can feel bored and keep working, and you can feel uncomfortable and stay present. You can feel unmotivated and still take action. This is the difference between people who do hard things and people who don't. It's not that they feel different, it's that they respond differently. They've learned to separate feeling from action. When they sit down to work and their brain says, this is boring, they don't argue with it. They don't try to make it not boring. They just think, okay, noted, and they keep working. When they start exercising and their body says this is uncomfortable, they don't try to make it comfortable. They just think, yeah, that's exercise, and they keep moving. They've trained themselves to see resistance as normal, not as evidence they should stop, not as proof they're doing something wrong, just as the cost of doing something worthwhile. And here's what happens when you do this. When you stop treating resistance like an emergency, it stops feeling like an emergency. Your brain learns, oh, we can feel uncomfortable and be okay. We can feel bored and keep going. We can feel unmotivated and still act. The resistance doesn't go away, but your relationship to it changes. Instead of resistance meaning stop, it starts to mean this matters. Because easy things don't create resistance. Scrolling social media doesn't create resistance. Watching TV doesn't create resistance. Resistance is your brain's way of saying, this is different. This requires something from you. This is growth. And once you start seeing it that way, hard things become doable. Not easy. Never easy, but doable. You're not trying to eliminate the discomfort. You're just learning to be okay with it. You're learning to work with it instead of against it. Think of it like this. You're in a room with a fire alarm going off. Most people spend all their energy trying to turn off the alarm, trying to make the noise stop, getting frustrated when it keeps ringing. But what if instead you just acknowledged, okay, there's an alarm, it's loud, it's annoying, but I can still think, I can still move, I can still do what I came here to do. The alarm doesn't have to control you. Resistance is the same. It's just noise your brain makes when you do something that matters. You don't have to turn it off. You just have to stop letting it make your decisions. So when you sit down to do something hard and your brain starts its familiar song, this is boring, this is too difficult, you're not good at this, maybe later. You can just think, thanks for sharing, and keep going. Not fighting it, not arguing with it, just proceeding anyway. This is what people mean when they talk about discipline. It's not about feeling motivated all the time, it's about acting regardless of how you feel. It's the skill of doing things you don't want to do, not because you've forced yourself to want them, but because you've learned that wanting and doing are different things. You cannot want to exercise and still exercise. You can not want to work and still work. You cannot want to have a difficult conversation and still have it. Your feelings can be passengers. They don't have to be the driver. And the beautiful thing is, the more you practice this, the quieter the resistance becomes. Not because hard things get easier, but because you get stronger. Your tolerance for discomfort grows. What used to feel impossible starts to feel manageable. Your brain learns a new pattern. This human does hard things, even when they don't feel like it, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it would be easier to stop. And slowly, your brain stops trying to protect you from difficulty It stops treating every moment of effort like a crisis. Instead, it starts to help. It starts to see hard things as normal, as part of who you are. This is how you rewire your brain, not by forcing it, not by fighting it, but by consistently showing it a different way. One choice at a time, one moment of staying instead of leaving, one moment of acting despite feeling. Your brain is always watching, always learning, always adapting, and it will adapt to whatever you consistently show it. Show it that you run from discomfort. It will make discomfort feel unbearable. Show it that you can sit with discomfort. It will stop treating discomfort like danger. The choice is always yours. In every moment, not the choice of how to feel, but the choice of how to act. And that's all the control you need. So here's what I suggest. Not a rule, just a practice. Next time you feel the urge to check your phone, pause, just for 5 seconds. Not to fight the urge, not to make it go away, just to notice it. Feel where it sits in your body, the slight tension, the pull, the sense that you need to reach for something, and then choose. You can still pick up the phone if you want. This isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. But in that 5-second space, it's how you're practicing something powerful. You're practicing the gap between impulse and action. Most people don't know that gap exists. They feel the urge and immediately act. Feel bored, grab the phone, feel uncomfortable, find distraction, feel resistance, walk away. But there's always a moment, a tiny space between feeling and doing. And in that space, you have power. I know this sounds simple, maybe too simple. Your brain might be saying, this can't possibly work for me. My situation is different. My resistance is stronger. I used to think the same thing. I used to think I needed some massive intervention, some complete life overhaul, some perfect system that would finally make hard things easy. But that's not how brains work. Brains learn from repetition, small repetition, consistent repetition. Every time you pause instead of immediately reacting, you're teaching your brain something new. You're showing it that impulses don't have to become actions, that feelings don't have to become decisions. Start there, just the pause, 5 seconds, 10 if you can. Don't worry about what comes next. Don't worry about doing the hard thing perfectly. Don't worry about never checking your phone again. Just practice the space. Because here's what happens when you do this consistently. That space gets bigger. At first it feels tiny, almost non-existent. You feel the urge, you pause for a second, you probably still pick up the phone. That's fine, you're not trying to win, you're trying to learn. But over time, something shifts. The pause gets longer, the urge feels less urgent. You start to notice, I have a choice here. And sometimes you make a different choice. You feel the pull to check social media, you pause, and you think, actually, no, I'm going to keep working. Not because you forced yourself, not because you used massive willpower, but because in that space of awareness, you remembered what you actually wanted. This is the practice. It works for everything. You're about to avoid a difficult conversation, pause, notice the urge to delay, notice the discomfort, then choose. You're about to skip your workout, pause, notice the resistance, notice the story your brain is telling, then choose. You're about to quit something challenging, pause. Notice the impulse to escape. Notice what you're actually afraid of, then choose. Sometimes you'll still avoid the hard thing. Sometimes you'll still take the easy path. That's human. But sometimes you won't. And that's everything. Because your brain is always watching, always learning, Every time you pause, it learns we can feel impulses without acting on them. Every time you choose differently, it learns we can do hard things. Every time you stay present with discomfort, it learns discomfort isn't danger. And slowly, gradually, your default changes. Instead of your brain automatically reaching for escape, it starts to automatically reach for presence. Instead of resistance meaning stop, it starts to mean this matters. The hard things don't become easy, but you become stronger. And that's all you need. So that's the practice. Simple, not easy. 5 seconds of pause, noticing the space between feeling and action, remembering that you always have a choice. Start today. Start with the next urge you feel, the next moment of resistance, the next impulse to escape. Just pause, just notice, just choose, and your brain will learn. It always does. So that's control, not forcing, not fighting, just noticing and choosing. I know this might sound too simple. 5 seconds, a pause, awareness. Your brain might be saying that can't be enough. But here's what I've learned. The biggest changes come from the smallest practices. The most profound shifts happen in ordinary moments. You don't need to revolutionize your entire life today. You don't need to become a different person by tomorrow. You just need to notice the next impulse, feel the next moment of resistance, and pause. That's it. Your brain will do the rest. It's always learning, always adapting, always becoming what you consistently show it. Show it that you can sit with discomfort, and it will stop treating discomfort like danger. Show it that you can choose your actions, and it will stop making your feelings feel like commands. Hard things will still be hard, but you'll be different, stronger, more aware, more free. That's enough for today. Just notice, just pause, just choose. Everything else will follow.